This is echoes carved by the ancestors. The petroglyphs in this image ignite the imagination, inspiring the vibrant interpretation behind today's story.
Long ago, in a dry land of red stone and wind-bent brush, there lived a tribe called Natsira. Their village rested beside a narrow wash where water once ran clear after summer storms. For many generations, the Natsira followed the same paths, hunted the same mesas, and planted near the same sandy banks. But one year, the rain did not come. The wash cracked open like old bone. Corn leaves curled and died. Deer vanished from the lower canyons. Even the lizards hid beneath stones during the day, as if the sun had become angry. The elders gathered each evening beneath a cottonwood whose leaves had turned gray with dust. They spoke quietly, but everyone knew the truth. If the tribe stayed, hunger would take them before winter. Only one hope remained. North of the broken mesas, beyond a country none of them traveled anymore, lay the Valley of Deep Springs. The old story said water rose there from beneath the earth, even in the driest seasons. But the path to it passed through a forbidden land called the Silent Hunter's Country. No one had crossed it in living memory. The warning came from an ancient boulder, standing alone at the edge of the Badlands. Carved into its dark face was a strange figure with a great round head, arms raised high and fingers spread wide. Beside it stood a small four-legged animal and a circle like an eye. Below, faint and nearly swallowed by stone, was a smaller human shape. The elders called the great figure the Silent Hunter. Some said he had once been a man who hunted without gratitude. Others said he was never human at all, but a spirit that watched those who entered his land. The raised hands were not welcome. They were warning. Still, hunger does not always allow fear to rule. A young tracker named Aven stepped forward. He was not the strongest hunter, but he knew how to read cracked mud, broken grass, and the silence between bird calls. His younger sister, Luma, insisted on going too. She was small, sharp-eyed, and brave in a way only someone ignored by adults can be. Elder Mako chose 6 others. 2 hunters, 1 healer, 1 seed-keeper, and 2 strong carriers. Their task was to find the Valley of Deep Springs and return with proof the tribe could survive there. At dawn, they left. The first day, the land seemed ordinary. Red cliffs rose around them. Ravens circled overhead. Their sandals stirred dust in the trail. But by evening, they reached the ancient boulder, and every traveler fell silent. The carved figure watched them. Aven placed his hand against the stone, careful not to touch the markings. "We pass because our people are dying," he whispered. "We take only the path. We leave no insult." The wind moved through the brush, though nothing else stirred. That night, they camped beyond the boulder. No one slept well. Luma woke first, hearing footsteps outside the firelight. She saw shapes moving between the shrubs. People thin as smoke, walking without sound. Ghosts. They did not attack. They only passed through the camp, their faces turned north. One carried a broken bough. Another held a child. A third pointed with a long arm toward the darkness. At sunrise, the travelers found marks in the sand around their camp. Not footprints. Handprints. Raised hands pressed into the dust. The hunter Satek wanted to turn back. "The Silent Hunter has seen us," he said. Aven looked north. "Then he knows why we came." They continued. The second day brought strange signs. A deer appeared on a ridge, pale as moonlight though the sun blazed overhead. It stared at them, then walked into a canyon mouth. Aven followed, believing it might lead to water. Inside the canyon, the walls narrowed until the sky became a blue ribbon above them. The air cooled. For a moment, hope rose in every heart. Then they saw bones. Not animal bones. Human bones lay scattered beneath the ledges, half buried in sand. Broken water jars rested beside them. On the wall above, someone had scratched circles inside circles, as if counting days without escape. The pale deer stood at the far end of the canyon. It turned its head toward them, and Aven saw that its eyes were empty hollows. "Back," he said. The canyon began to groan. A slab of stone cracked loose from above and crashed where they had been standing moments before. Dust swallowed the air. They ran, coughing, dragging one another toward the opening. The healer fell, and Luma pulled her up by the wrist with strength no one expected from her small body. When they escaped, the pale deer was gone. That evening they argued. "The spirits are warning us away," said Satek. "No," Luma said. Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly. "They warned us from the wrong path." Aven looked at her, then at the others. The boulder did not say, "Do not enter." It said, "Do not enter blindly." From then on, they watched every sign. On the third day, the land became stranger. Their voices seemed to vanish as soon as they spoke. Rocks stood in shapes like crouching people. At noon, they found a dry basin filled with cracked clay. In the center stood a single black stone marked with a circle. The seed keeper, Nara, knelt beside it. "This is like the circle beside the animal on the boulder." Aven studied the ground. Around the basin were faint tracks, old but visible. Deer, sheep, and human feet all moving along the same edge, never crossing the center. "The circle marks danger," he said. They walked around the basin. When Satek threw a pebble into the middle, the clay broke open and swallowed into dark mud below. Quicksand hidden beneath a dry crust. No one spoke for a long while after that. That night, Aven dreamed. He stood before the petroglyph boulder, but the carved figure was alive. Its round head glowed like a dim sun. Its raised hands were covered in dust. Beside it stood the small animal, not deer or sheep, but something between both, made of shadow and starlight. The silent hunter spoke without sound. Aven woke before dawn with tears on his face. "We have misunderstood the warning," he said. "The silent hunter is not hunting us. He is silent because only fools need shouting. The land speaks quietly first." Luma pointed toward the east. "Then we should listen." In the morning, she noticed bees flying low between thorn bushes. Bees meant flowers. Flowers meant moisture. The group followed them across a ridge where no trail showed. The path was brutal. Stones cut their feet. One hunter slipped and nearly fell into a ravine. They tied themselves together with woven cord and moved slowly, step by step. Near sunset, they found a seep in a shaded crack of stone. It was not much water, but it was life. They drank carefully, filled their jars, and gave thanks. No one shouted. No one celebrated loudly. They had learned that survival in the silent hunter's country belonged to those who respected small things. The next morning, ghost figures appeared again. This time, they stood in a line along a ridge. Their smoky arms lifted, fingers spread wide like carving. Luma raised her hands in return. The ghosts turned and began walking. The travelers followed. For 2 days, the dead led them through a maze of stone. They passed places where disaster waited quietly. A cave with air that smelled bitter, a slope ready to slide, a spring ringed by dead birds, a beautiful pool too green to trust. At each danger, the ghost stopped until Aven understood. At last, on the 9th day, the land opened. Below them lay the valley of deep springs. Cottonwoods shimmered green. Water flashed in the sun. Deer grazed near the banks, unafraid. Birds lifted from reeds and bright clouds. After so many days of dust and dread, the valley looked impossible. Some fell to their knees. Others wept openly. But Aven did not rush down. He remembered the warning. They entered slowly. They tested the water. They watched the animals. They found old planting terraces and empty shelters, abandoned but still strong. The valley could hold the Natsira. It could save them. Barely able to stand, the travelers filled jars, gathered proof for the others to see, and began the return journey. Only 5 of the 8 made it back. One hunter died from a snake bite after stepping carelessly into brush. A carrier, weakened by thirst, did not wake one morning. Satek, who had feared the ghosts most, gave his water to the healer and collapsed within sight of the ancient boulder. Aven and Luma reached the village with hollow faces and sunken eyes, carrying water from the deep springs. The tribe changed after hearing their story. They did not simply move to the new valley. They changed how they lived. Hunters no longer killed for pride. Children were taught to read bees, birds, shadows, and silence. Before entering unknown land, every traveler raised both hands, not in fear, but in respect. Elder Mako led the people to the ancient boulder one final time before they left their dying home. There, Beneath the silent hunter, Luma carved a small mark. A tiny human figure with raised hands. Not large, not powerful. Listening, the tribe understood then that the smallest figure on the stone carried the greatest lesson. Warnings are not curses. They are gifts from those who barely survived before us. And from that day forward, the Natsira taught their children. The land speaks before it strikes. The dead whisper before they vanish. The wise survive because they listen while the warning is still quiet.
Thank you for listening to Echoes Carved by the Ancestors. This has been an interpretation of the petroglyph from the American Southwest. This appears to be a prehistoric southwestern Native American petroglyph panel, most likely associated with the ancestral Puebloan, Anasazi, Fremont, or a related Colorado Plateau culture. The large anthropomorphic figure, sacred animal, and circular symbol are commonly interpreted as representing ceremonial, spiritual, ancestral, or hunting-related themes. Like most prehistoric rock art, its original meaning is unknown, but it likely conveyed an important cultural or spiritual message. As with most prehistoric rock art, the true meaning is unknown, but archaeologists often interpret the symbols through recurring themes. To hear more stories from the ancestors, choose another story, explore one of our playlists, or subscribe to our channel using the links on your screen.